Then, all of a sudden, it simply happened. After good luck in birth, family, and upbringing, after strong academic preparation, after signs of genuine promise, my intellectual life in the early 1980s, when I was entering my 40s, collapsed as if overnight into a pit of ashes. And there, more or less, no, there, unremittingly, precisely, and exactly, it has remained ever since. Calamity. But I must point out that it was in no way an individual matter. It was in no way something that happened only to me. It was the whole world that began to change. The world I lived in, the world I thought I knew so well, it suddenly changed completely. Think of humans' lives being like the lives of fish in the sea, with the difference that the human ocean is made of air, not water. When the change came, it was as though the air had been depleted suddenly of oxygen. Enormous kills took place. Dead fish by the millions were washed up onto the shores. By the millions. By the very millions. Believe me. The first time I remember seeing with true clarity and depth into the authentic nature of art was on a summer afternoon in 1946, when I hadn't yet reached the age of 5. The results of that experience have been inspiriting, profound, and lifelong. They have also, however, had the unforeseen and deleterious effect of making my life, in this, the age of the calamity, only more empty, regrettable, and bitter than it might otherwise have been. The reason is that now, in so vacuous an age as the one now given us, an age only of the linear, the shrill, the righteous, and the simple, I am driven almost to wish that I had never known what I do know. If my own ignorance were as pure as the ignorance of those who fill not only the halls of Acteon, but the entire nation around me, my life, I believe, would be far, far less painful than I find it to be now. The way things are, for me, I am like the man who walked in sunlight for a day before being closed for eternity in darkness. What caused my epiphany was that I watched my father take a photograph. Our car was parked along a gravel road somewhere outside of Northfield. I leaned against it and looked out at my father, who stood a fair distance away and slightly below me in a field of tall grass that came above his knees. A tripod stood in front of him. On it was mounted his bellows camera. With a black cloth over his head and shoulders, he leaned forward to look through the viewfinder. The photograph was to include a line of trees in the mid-distance, the trees offering a certain contrast by merit of the field of tall grass reaching off toward them. Subjects such as this appealed to my father, who took a great number of them over the years in varying seasons, lights, and weather. Our car was a gray two-door coupe, a 1939 Ford. It was a two-seater, although squeezed into the back were two tiny jump seats. My father had placed a wooden plank across these to fill the space between, so that I could sit there too, between my two sisters. What I learned on the afternoon in 1946 is this. An artwork extends outward from itself in every direction at once, and it extends also through time with equal force and in both directions simultaneously. For more than 6 decades now, I've held it as a central tenet of my intellectual and artistic life that these twin characteristics are fundamental and essential, since without them no created thing can achieve its transformation into art. Am I alone in understanding so simple and essential an idea? In the aftermath of the calamity, there are all around me, not the perceptive, but only the zealous. And by merit of their zeal, they hold a view directly the opposite of mine. They maintain that the highest, and perhaps only, measure of a work of art is the success of its existence as a simple, straight line. I am certain that my new understanding that day in 1946, when I leaned against the car watching my father, came largely from the energy and achievements of my forebears. The existence of my grandparents and great-grandparents, of my great-aunts and great-uncles, many of them educated, even highly learned, undoubtedly helped make possible my own readiness, and therefore my early and sudden recognition of those essential aspects of a work of art that serve to make it a work of art, as opposed to something else. On that long ago summer afternoon, silent, it was wonderfully silent under the massiveness of the summer sky, in the heat of the day. This is what came suddenly to my understanding, and never afterward left it. For a work of art to be a work of art, it is essential, 1, that it be deep, 2, that it be broad, 3, that it be inclusive of every atom of life that can be available to it. And 4, that by merit of these and other yet unidentified qualities, it be inevitably and perpetually captured within and simultaneously dedicated to an ongoing struggle both with and against the imponderable force of time. As clearly as if it were yesterday, I remember the feeling of the day and of the moment. I remember the heat, the stillness, the dry, olive-dusty green of the crop grass that rose above my father's knees, and I remember the darker, shadowy, voluminous, and moist-looking green of the trees in the direction his camera was pointed toward. Even the hint of gray-blue from the haze in the air when you looked across to where the trees waited, dense, shapely, and silent. One of the quintessentially important facts regarding the moment was that I was seeing these trees in the atmosphere and light of a summer afternoon exactly as my great-grandfather Larsen might have seen them in 1853 or 1862 or 1874. That I was seeing them further exactly as my great-uncles Nikolai or Jakob or Henning might have seen them in, say, 1889 or 1895 or 1904. Or that I was seeing them as my great-aunts Karen and Ingeborg might have seen them in 1912 or 1928 or 1934, or even in 1941. In turn, the immense importance of this fact has come to have not one but two quintessentially significant elements. One of these is positive and uplifting, the other is depleted of meaning and therefore despairing. The positive. From seeing the trees, from seeing my father photographing them, and from seeing them exactly as my forebears had seen them, I concluded that a work of art must necessarily extend not only forward but also backward through time. And the negative. My having been lucky enough to have seen the trees in this durable, timeless, and fecund way caused me to be unprepared for life in the world surrounding me as I write these words now, 6 decades later, almost 7. When, in the unreverberant and vacuum-like emptiness of the calamity's aftermath, this is the situation. There are none left capable of seeing the trees in the way I saw them, with this compound and inexpressibly lamentable result, that it is no longer possible to see the trees in the way that I saw them, and that it is no longer permissible to see the trees in the way that I saw them. In other words, the calamity gathered, the calamity arose, the calamity metastasized, the calamity went on existing. As an intellectual, cultural, social disease, the genius of it could not be more perfect. The calamity brings an end to cycles of growth, and so as a result, the only thing perdurable is the calamity itself. And every one of us is locked in, locked up, locked down in our paralyzed idiot world. Not true? But listen to them, what they say. Look at what they do. Doctors Correct and Me, Doctors Nose and Snoop, Dr. Carr Cleopatra, Doctors Long and Muscle, Dean's Glad, Happy Hand, Shark Dank, Rattle, and the calamity rose, towered up, overwhelmed the richness, variety, and wealth that previously had been everywhere. In the scentless air and unfecund soil of its aftermath, there came into being the age of simplicity. And the age of simplicity, since it is the age of simplicity, is unable to hear, think, conceive, or generate anything beyond or greater than itself. And therefore it is perfect, a self-maintained perpetual machine able to create only replicas of itself, and nothing more or nothing else, each generation infinitesimally more simple than the last. From the age of simplicity will therefore emerge, there are many hints already, the age of tyranny. As a consequence, we are doomed.